Thank you to everyone who's joined today. I'm very excited to be hosting this very special event. My name is Mikey Mhenna. I'm the Executive Director of Afikra. I am very honored to welcome our special guest, Al-Sid, who is a French and Tunisian artist who uses Arabic text and calligraphy, calligraphic styles as a distinctive style to spread message of peace and unity, to underline the commonalities of human existence. Al-Sid has won numerous awards and has brought his art all over the world and has published multiple books. Is based in Dubai, and I'm very, very happy to invite him onto Afikra Conversations. Al-Sid, welcome.
Thank you, Maggie. Thank you very much for having me.
So I think the best place to start is just a little bit of a biographical question. What drew you into art, and specifically public art, as a kid growing up in Paris?
I've been painting since I was a kid, but it was not really. I was not directed into like an artistic path. So I went to school. I went to university. I graduated from business school, and I used to work as a business consultant. But art was always there, even if I was not doing that super seriously. And I think I wanted to be an animator doing like animation. So I used to watch. I know all the Disney movie by heart in French, so I can make you the scene of the Lion King in French if you want. But then when I got into when I discovered actually graffiti in the late 90s, I kind of gave up like this animation thing, and I was really, really interested into graffiti in an artistic way. But I was more into dancing. I used to be a b-boy. I used to dance a lot, and yeah. So it was just on the side, and actually it's when I get interested into Arabic script that graffiti came back into my life, and I never thought I would be doing what I'm doing today. It was just a way for me to escape from the corporate world. Every weekend, going on those kind of I would say abandoned places and just paint for myself, not even for anyone, because back in the days like the Facebook and social media was not even there.
So was public art your entryway into public art was through sort of graffiti and hip hop culture and sort of this idea of painting, and so was the idea of like connecting humans together and social messages and social justice part of it in the beginning, or was it really I'm just expressing myself?
There was an organic evolution. At the beginning was just I needed this kind of creative mindset. So I just need to create stuff. And it started, with small wall and getting bigger and bigger. And at the beginning, I used to just write, for example, for the Arabic part of it was just Al-Sid, Alif, Lam, Sin, Ya, Dal. There was nothing. And then I was like, this is so boring to always paint the same letter. So I was like, okay, let me write, like a Tawazun, like or Hilm, So I start like using other letters, and then I start writing messages, like just like Ihtiram al-Kibar, or like Buki Ummi, like weird stuff like that, and then people, they start inviting me, to places, and because of social media, and then I was like, oh, this is weird. People want to see my work, and people are ready to invite me. Like they invite me to come to, they welcome me to a place to create some art, and so it became important for me to create something that was relevant, to the place, and it just started evolving like that, and then like growing up with this, I just realized that art became a pretext, to meet people and to create this amazing human experience that I've lived, or to defend the cause, or to highlight, put the highlight on a community, So all this evolved like slowly. It was not like, oh, what I'm doing today was totally different from what I used to do 10 years ago, But one point is like, the Arabic thing started from a quest of identity. That's the main thing.
Yeah. So I've heard you talk about this a bunch, and just for the people on the call who may not know, so you spent your childhood in Paris. Your parents are Tunisian. When you're at 18, you decided to spend more time in Tunisia. Am I getting this all right?
And not spending more time. I mean, getting closer. In Tunisia. I mean, growing up in France, I didn't felt French. Which is different today. And going in Tunisia like 2 months per year during the summer, you know, people, they used to tell you, oh, you're an immigrant, you know, you're not from here. So then you felt like you didn't belong there or neither here. So I felt, you know, I felt that I needed to choose. So I decided to, to be Tunisian. So I learned how to read Arabic and how to read and write. And that's how it started. But the more I grew up, you know, the more I evolved then with my Arabic art, you know, like with Arabic calligraphy, the more I discovered and realized that I wouldn't be capable of doing what I'm doing today if I was not French as well. You know, it's because I'm French that I'm doing what I'm doing today. You know, so it's the French. So Arabic calligraphy allows me to reconcile, you know, my two identity.
Yeah. So this is what I was trying to get to, because it seems as though you've sort of, yeah, you have reconciled it in a way. And I wonder if that's been a product of having had the opportunity of flying around all over the world and meeting all these other people. Have you sort of walked away from that process saying maybe these identities don't matter much
Yeah, I mean,
one way or the other?
yeah, I mean, I left that behind me, you know, like
Yeah.
I don't have this complex anymore. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's funny because people tell me like, "Oh, where are you from? Or what are you?" And sometimes I'm French-Tunisian. Sometimes I'm Tunisian French. Sometimes like it doesn't matter where I'm from. You know, it's not that. It's about what I'm doing right now. You know,
Yeah.
and I don't wanna just you know, confine myself into a nationality or like a provenance. You know, a place where you're from. You know, I think identities, there's like multiple layers that make you that make each of us what we are today, you know, and that's how I look at it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I want to talk briefly about this project that you did, I think in 2012 in Tunisia.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a mosque that was unpainted, just to fill in some of the gaps. The bottom right corner, you can see this mosque that was unpainted for almost 20 years.
Yeah.
Can you tell me the story, and specifically the story of how you chose this verse? I'm really interested in how you choose the verses that are sort of appropriate for each community you work in. How did you choose this verse? What is this verse? And you know,
You
how
know,
do you feel about this work now?
in every project, you know, so just to mention, this is the city I'm originally from, Gabes, in south of Tunisia, and so I used to see this building, this mosque, since '94. So every summer when we go, I used to see it, and then you know when you see something like, oh, it would be funny if one day I paint this, you know, like, but you don't even mention it, it's just, you know. And yeah, in 2012, a friend of mine told me, Fawzi, why don't you paint the mosque of the minaret of Jara Mosque? And for 18 years, it was not painted. And so like, you know, with my team, we approached the imam of the mosque and the mayor of the city, and the imam said, yeah, please, just, no, he said, Alhamdulillah, Jit. That's what he said. Thank God you came. That's what he said. And, you know, because it's important for me to make sure that the work that I create are relevant to the place where I'm painting. I thought, you know, like what could be more relevant to pick something from Quran, but I also want, you know, my work to be to have this universal dimension, so anybody around the world can relate to what I'm writing. So I picked this verse from Surat al-Hujurat. I think it's the verse number 13 that says, "O humankind, we have created you from a male and a female, and made you people and tribes, so you may know each other." So yeah, that's what is written on both sides actually.
Yeah. Is it you know, there's a town that you call home. In some ways, you may call many places home. When you approach parts of the world that you have, you know, you're meeting for the first time, like when you went to Egypt to do your now very famous perception project, how do you walk into that community? What's your approach? How do you even walk into a new community and get to know them humbly? How do you do that?
You know, like there's a saying in Tunis, you know, that says like you enter a place with its people. You know what I mean? So, you know, for example, perception. I knew there was a church there, so that was my point of entry. So I always try to pick, like, I need to find something that will be, you know, like the door, and then when you find the door, you find the key, and the key most of the time is somebody that you meet in the neighborhood. So the first time I went to Manshiyat Nasr in Cairo, we went to the church, so we visited the church, and some guy from the church thought we were, doing a pilgrimage, with my team, and then he started making us visit the church, and so we let the guy, like be confident and speak, and then I was like, look, I'm an artist and I would like to paint, like the neighborhood, and I showed him, what I had planned, on the paper, and then he said, okay, to do this, you need like I was like, how can I convince everybody to let me paint their house? And they said, to do this, you need to convince the priest, Abu Nasaman. And so I was like, okay, so how do I meet the priest? He said, okay, you need to speak with Mario. I was like, who's Mario? So Mario was this Polish guy who was like the right arm of the priest who moved to Cairo like 30 years ago. But Mario was not in Cairo this time. He was on holiday in Scandaria. So I was like, okay, at least can I have his phone? So I called this guy Mario, and he thought I was crazy. He was like, what are you talking about? You want to paint the neighborhood? So he couldn't understand what I was saying on the phone. And with my lahja Tunisia, I think he didn't understand me. So I was like, give me your email and I will send you what I have in mind. And then a few days later, he managed to set us a meeting with the father, Abu Nasaman. And then, it was a funny conversation, like with the priest, like trying to convince him to paint like a full neighborhood, and then it took us, my team and I, actually 5 months to convince him, because the most important thing was he wanted to know what I was going to write, and so it took me 5 months to find what I was going to put in this neighborhood.
So you didn't have okay, so that answers my question. So you didn't have a verse to start with. You had a concept to start with.
No. Yeah. I remember he said, he told me like, this is a Christian neighborhood. I said, yes, I know that. He's like, okay, so you have to. He's like, yeah, I know. I told him I will make sure I write something that's related to, like, relevant to you. And he told me, what don't you write Allah Mahabba? I was like, yeah, it's nice. And then he said, like, why don't you write Mubarak Sha'ab Masr? I was like, this is nice, I kid Mubarak Sha'ab Masr, but let me go deeper, in the meaning of what I want to write. And I wanted to speak about perception, and I found, the word of Saint Athanasius, who is a Coptic bishop from the 4th century, who said, anyone who wants to see the sunlight clearly need to wipe his eyes first. And so when I came back to him in December 2015, he said, yeah, okay, موافق. And then he opened the door to us, and 2 months later we were like, on the ground, and because he said yes, everybody said yes.
Yeah, and that verse is particularly poignant and like relevant because this neighborhood is the neighborhood filled with the garbage cleaners, the people who sift through the garbage for all of Cairo.
Yeah, so they collect the garbage of Cairo, they bring it to the neighborhood, and they recycle it, and they manage to develop the most powerful recycling system of the world. There is nobody that can do what they do. For example, this neighborhood recycle 80% of what they collect, when the city of London recycled, I think, only 17% of what they collect. So you can see the gap. But because they're associated with trash, they're marginalized and isolated, and that's why, like the subject was perception, because like I felt, people needed to look at them like from a different lens.
They needed to wipe their eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like not only the people, but me and my whole team. This is what happened. It was an evolution from the first time I went there, like when I couldn't even drink a bottle of water in the cafe because I thought they found a bottle of water inside the garbage. So I was cleaning it, and then at the end of the project, I sit on a bag of trash, and we have barbecue in the neighborhood. We eat there. It's I have a family. I can say I have a family now in Manshiyat Nasr, and I have one.
So I wonder, like, what was the response of the rest of Cairo and the rest of Egypt? Was there a sense of you are judging us, you El Cid are judging us, and or were they proud? And what was the response?
Happy, seriously, they were like so happy. That was I was I wasn't expecting this kind of like buzz around this artwork. I was not expecting this. So it's after we left we realized what we've done with my team, and like all the people were so happy, like so happy, and I received so much message, and I felt like they were going to give me like the like the Egyptian citizenship.
Yeah.
It was great. It was great. You know, I was, yeah, I mean, I fell in love, you know, with Cairo in general and with the people of this neighborhood, honestly.
So, so for a project like that, that's so urban, that's
Yeah.
deeply, deeply, deeply urban, highly congested, and part of what you're doing is part of the canvas is the congestion, right? It's
Yeah.
com- comparing that to this project, Lost Walls,
Yeah.
right, which is deeply, you know, like almost, you know, almost cartoonishly rural.
Yeah.
You know, like these walls out of nowhere. In one
Yeah.
of your interviews, I saw you said, I feel like this wall, the one in the top left, was made for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like how would you expect to find a wall in the middle of a, in the middle of like this 250-kilometer salted lake in the middle of Tunisia? Like, you know, we're driving and then we found this. I'm like, come on, like, how on earth, you know, like, because me, this is the way I look at cities, you know, and when I'm driving or like walking, I look at the space as how it could be like a canvas, you know, and for me, like finding this in this place, it was just crazy. It was like unexpected, you know, and actually there's so many of them, you know, like when you know, like everywhere I go to them, I'm like, wow, I wish I could go and paint this, you know,
So do
and
you just have like a notebook of quotes and poems that you're just like, oh, there's a wall. All right.
no, 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 on this one, you know, like for example, when we did Lost Worlds, there was like cities that you know I wanted to visit. So there's where I would stay like 3-4 days meeting the people, and sometimes you know you speak with somebody and then he says something is like, oh, this is so interesting, so I'm gonna paint that. For example, you know the the blue one
Mhm.
here,
Yeah.
this one. You know, it was we met this Bedouin, you know, and he said. I don't know, we had this conversation and he was such a beautiful person. Like, you know, like, I love the way he was speaking. He was a poet and an artist and he was a camel breeder. And he says so many stuff. And then one of the things that he said, الإنسان الذي لا أثر له لا حياة له. A man who didn't leave a trace behind him didn't have a life. And then he just left, you know. He said, okay, guys, I have to go. Like, this is my, my nephew's wedding. You know, we met him like randomly in a cafe and he tell us this and then he leaves.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna paint this, you know. So I painted that. For example, on the, you see like the man standing with a cane, like in front of this orange wall.
Hmm.
This one, my uncle, Allah yarhamhu, this is my grandparents' house, you know. So my dad was born there, you
Oh,
know.
wow.
Yeah. So on the right side, this is planet Tatooine, where Luke Skywalker was born. You know, I mean, in
Yeah.
the, you
Yeah.
know. So, so on this one, I wrote, "I will never be your son." You know, it was a statement against the fact that you know, like the Tunisian authority, they were preserving a film set where they were like leaving totally forgotten some you know some heritage that are like deeper and are real, you know, compared to this film set built in the middle of nowhere in Tunisia. But I mean, the story is longer than that, you know. And
Yeah.
yeah, the other one, you know, for example, I wrote Wahid, you know, Wahid. That's funny because a guy in my team is called Wahid, so everybody else in the team is like, oh, why are you writing his name and not mine? I'm like, no, it's not Wahid's name. I'm writing alone, you know, like lost, you know, in the middle of nowhere. You know, so it's so you have walls where I stayed like 3-4 days in one place, and the walls were just on the way. You know, like 20 minutes wall you paint, and then you go, you just do it for the picture.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a question from like going back to the sort of subway, the original 1970s subway graffiti of New York, and this idea of tagging. Do you feel like this is your reinterpretation of tagging these walls? And almost like by tagging them, you take photos of them, you publish these photos, and then all of a sudden the world knows about these walls. Is that the idea?
I think you know. I mean, I would say the kids in the States, you know, in New York when they started in the 70s, because they were really kids when they started. Now, like
Yeah.
most of them, they're more than 50 years old. They wanted to leave a trace. They wanted to say like, I'm alive, I exist. I tag this train, and this train will go upstate New York, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
like uptown Manhattan, and people will see my name. You know, so it was a way to claim that you were alive. You know, and definitely, you know, like the roots of my art is coming from there. You know, leaving your trace. You know, but then there is an evolution of it. You know, and I don't want to be like, oh, I just want to do the same thing, and maybe in 10 years I would be doing something totally different. Inshallah, I don't know, but it's definitely, yeah, I'm definitely taking inspiration from that. You know.
Yeah.
It's cool, when some people find, mainly the lost wall is the coolest part because some of them are really hidden. So when somebody find one, and take a picture, I was like, wow, that I do it for the surprise, like somebody's driving or somebody's walking and hiking, and then he's like, how this guy came and painted here, so it's like more like a gift that I give to the world, like, and I hide it.
So I remember you in one of you mentioned this idea that, um, that you stick to Arabic script and you like the idea of using Arabic script not only because of its beauty but also in some ways it's elusive, right? There are many people around the world who don't speak Arabic at all, but they can appreciate the what it looks like and fall into it the way somebody would be listening to music who doesn't know what's going on,
Yeah.
or the way somebody who listens to like music in English and they don't know English but they still love the song, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's how I look at it. Like I'm really into Finnish polka those days, and I don't understand anything of what those guys are saying, but I think the melody is beautiful, and I think that's the same. With Arabic script, you look at it as you like the aesthetic of it. And like compared to the Latin alphabet, Arabic is like all is natural and smooth. You like A or a V or L. It's like so geometrical. It doesn't speak to your soul. And I think Arabic like speaks to, there's something vegetal in it that
yeah.
speaks to your soul. I think, and that's how I look at it. And I don't want people to look at my work as because as how you say that as scripts. I think there's three layers of looking at my work. There is the first one is the aesthetic one. You might like or not like the aesthetic of the work, and then it's what is written. What is the message behind it, and the third layer would be the context. Why me as an artist, I'm writing this on this day in this place. So that's how I look at it. But sometimes people say, oh, you should write what you're writing, under the wall, so people can read it. I'm like, no, because then you will lose, the poetry of the calligraphy because your eye would go first to what it can decipher, and I think we're losing the whole purpose of it.
It's almost like, yeah, it's so interesting. It's almost like you're forcing people to like pay attention to what they feel as opposed to what they think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it creates an emotion, like I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
that's the purpose of it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
That's how I look at it. And I think I succeed if I create an emotion. If people comes like, oh, it's beautiful. Okay, it's nice. Or like, that's yeah, that's creating emotion. I think Arabic script has the power of creating emotion, and that's how I look at it.
So, a lot of artists, evolve or sort of, not evolve. That's not the word I'm looking. They experiment with different styles. It seems like lately you've been experimenting with different medium, and
Yeah.
thinking through sculpture and thinking through a bunch of different stuff. Um, this piece in general, the one for the Dubai Opera, I found really, really fascinating. What were some of just like the technical challenges of doing this? Not the artistic challenge, the actual technical challenges of pulling this off.
Like I moved from 2D to 3D, like when I was doing my art residency at Tashkil a few years ago, like in 2014. And I remember like he was Sheikh Latifa, she told me, if you come to this residency, you stay 1 year, but you have to leave Dubai with something that you never did before. And for me, like I could see it, like in my mind, like it took me so much time to actually to express it physically because in my mind I could see it. I could see my work in 3D, but expressing it physically was so difficult. So I
This is
started.
before Perceptions?
I was before Perception. It was 2 years before Perception.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's a 3D work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so it was like here trying to switch, from how do you look at something like Xplat into something more 3D, and I think I tried to I was working with movement, like instead of looking at the letter, I was like, how can I create this shape, and then
Mhm.
the letter are just a tool to create the shape,
Do you have would you say that like a lot of artists in different genres have contemporaries that are like Miles Davis has Dizzy Gillespie, right? and John Coltrane and Charlie Parker and they all sound different, but they're contemporaries that are pushing themselves, pushing each other. Do you feel like you have sort of a class of contemporaries that are all kind of pushing? You're all sort of pushing each other.
Definitely, I think from in the calligraphic world, yes, and like in the non-calligraphic world as well. Like there's so many artists that I look upon, some minorities that I speak with. That we try to inspire each other. In a certain way, and definitely, I don't think I'm alone in this game. Otherwise it will be boring. There's so many people who are playing with script in a crazy way all around the world with Arabic script or Latin script. And this is interesting to see how people try to push the boundaries. Me, to be honest with you, I try to sometimes not to look at the work of other people. I'm like in kind of my bubble, but I always exchange, with other artists, and giving tips, getting tips and giving tips, and that's, I think it's, I don't look at it as, like sometimes people look at think there is a competition between artists, but it's coming from our heart. So I don't think, it's there is any competition into this. It's like just somebody express, his feelings in a way, me I express them in another way, and I don't think people should make comparison in this.
Yeah. So there's going to be a ton of questions in the chat, and I want to get to them quickly. My last, I think I have two questions left. The first is I'm just going to show a couple of different slides about projects that you've done all over the world, in Lebanon, in Korea, in Saudi Arabia, in Toronto. And so I'm curious how you choose those locations. What is the process that you use to choose those locations?
So there is, for example, places that I pick, and there is places where people reach out to me, and and they say, we would love you to come and do something. And then I'm like, I try to, I make some research, to be sure that what I will do will be relevant, because the point I think today is not to paint or like create an art piece everywhere around the world. For me, it's more important to do something relevant. So sometimes I'm like, it's better if I spend. There was a time in my life where I wanted all the time. I needed to create something every month. I needed to paint a wall every single month. Well now, like I don't mind if, for example, I spend 1 year preparing a project that, that will take me like 3 months to execute, and then like I will spend like 2 years to say like, wow, this is realizing, what we've accomplished. Something as the perception is like that. Perception is difficult because I feel this is so stuck to me, like everybody now refer to me as perception, and when I did other stuff such as the piece in between South and North Korea, and the DMZ, so it depends, it's really the theme. That's what is the most important for me. It's not the places. Yeah. I want to speak, for example, like in the DMZ, I wanted to talk about reunification, so I think that this project, the bridge, could have happened like, between Pakistan, Kashmir, and India. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. Perception. If, for example, this garbage collector were in Nepal or in Peru, I think I would have gone there. Toronto is known to be the most diverse city in the world. And if the most diverse city in the world would be London, I would have gone there to do this Tower of Babel. So it really depends on the theme that I want to explore.
Amazing. Okay, my last question is a multimedia question. During the early quarantine in March, I remember seeing the Zoom meeting that you put together.
Yeah.
Which is like cheeky and a cute idea, but is so thoughtful and is so interesting. And I think it was super well executed. Can you just talk a little bit about this project? Why, how you try to use multimedia in your art? Because I think this is so well done.
Like I said, getting into this confinement a few months ago, it was, how do you say that? I love the human interaction. Why I love to paint or work in the street is because you meet people that you were not supposed to meet, and then you create relationship with them sometimes. and then, during the COVID, a friend of mine suggested me this thing, and then with my team, we tried to execute it. We made some tests and see like how can we bring people, on the screen, and then we realized that on Zoom you need 49. You can see 49 people in one screen, and then I was like, like how can we bring like people from all over the world into the same place, but for one thing, like where each person will be responsible of connecting at the same time to create this piece that says, that's actually, it's a quote from Malraux, the French writer, that says, art is the shortest path from one human being to another one. And we have people from China, Rwanda, Nigeria, Pakistan, the US, and we had an amazing performance, from Aloe Black, who sang like for 1 hour. And then we had those three sisters, Nora, Rosa, and Yara from Amsterdam. They did a dancing performance. It was just amazing, and when I look at the project after, I'm like, wow, this is crazy what happened. Because I was just focused actually on the making sure people get connected. The guy called me, he's like, I don't know, I cannot connect, my internet is bad. And then you have to switch to somebody else. It was crazy. I swear I was sitting in my living room, I was sweating, I was sweating. Yeah. And then, we printed, the lithograph of the artwork, and we sold it. Actually, it was sold out in 1 or 2 days. It was crazy. And then the money was then sent to hospital, the hospital where I grew up in France, in Boulogne-Billancourt. And the other part was sent to the hospital of Gabès, where I'm from. So, yeah.
Well, okay, we're going to transition into these 4 quick Q&As, and then there's a lot of questions in the chat. So the first question is, what are you reading or watching right now?
Okay, reading right now, nothing, but the last book that I just finished was actually a book from Amin Malouf, Les Échelles du Levant. That actually, it's a beautiful, I would say, it's a beautiful love story. I wouldn't say love story because it's it's deeper than love story. And I read before that the French book called Le Liseur du 6h37 or 27, 6h27, which is a cute fiction as well.
What could be deeper than love?
Okay.
Yeah. Who would you love to shadow for a day, past or present?
Wow, Michael Jackson.
Nice. In what decade?
At the time of Thriller, I would say.
Okay.
I would love to understand, the way he was seeing his stuff, like how the way he was executing his idea, because I know like he was really into pushing the boundaries of his field,
Yeah, perfect. That's a good choice. What do most people misunderstand about your work?
The fact that I'm writing words and I'm writing stuff with meanings, and that I don't do. I mean, like my work is not a verse from Quran or just Arabic poetry. It's like translation from poetry from all over the world, painted in the place where I'm painting in.
Great. And whose work do you admire or are inspired by?
Ai Weiwei.
Oh, okay, nice, great. That was very quick. Okay, perfect. Successfully described quick questions. Okay, so we got a lot of questions in the chat. We'll start with Yusra.
Pleasure to hear from you. And it kind of follows along the lines of Mikey's question on locations. So I asked about Manshiyat Nasr and why that specific place and what made you pursue it for 5 months specifically?
Okay. Because the place was unique. There is nobody in the world that do what those people are doing, and I think it was important for me to highlight that, and like I said, if this community of Manshiyat Nasr were in Peru or in Japan, I think I would have gone there. But it happened that they were in Cairo, and they're the best in the world in what they do, and that's why I think there was not a better place to speak about perception than Manshiyat Nasr in Cairo.
Great. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.
Noura? Thanks, Yusra. Noura, you're up next.
Hello. I was thinking of how some people experience colors as sounds. I think it's called synesthesia. And I was wondering if you've ever been in a place and perhaps heard a song or a piece of music, not necessarily Arabic, but that you felt really evokes your art?
Oh, wow.
That's a great question.
That's a deep question, like if there's a music. What is funny is like each piece of my work are linked to a song. When I say to a song is not, every time I paint, I'm listening to, for example, a song. And then if I hear this song years after, it will remind me of the wall that I painted. For example, there was a French rapper called Medine that is linked to a project that I did in Philadelphia 3 years ago. So when I hear like the album that he released in 2017, I don't know why this full album is linked to a wall that I painted there. Like for example, the Dubai Opera, there's a song from Fairuz that I was listening when I painted the wall, and out of my playlist, that's the only song that comes to my mind when I look at this piece. So I think that's how I link my art to music. I hope I answered your question.
Great. Thanks so much. That's a great question. Abdullah Khamil, I think.
My question is, any expected collaboration with Krampas Lampas, a Russian artist, especially if you know him for sure?
No, I know him, of course. Yeah, we friends, we know each other. But no, I mean, there is no collab in plan right now.
Okay.
And I appreciate what he does. He's a great artist, great guy.
Yeah, especially his mix between East and Koloritsa and Russian alphabet. It's very interesting, I think.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks to you for being here.
Great. Thanks so much. So the next question is Leila, who asked me to read it. She said, my question is about how you spell your name in English. Does it have any meaning?
Okay. So it's actually, there is a French play called Le Cid from a writer called Corneille. So when we were studying that in French class when I was 16 or 17, and our teacher was telling us that Le Cid is coming from the Arabic word Al-Sayyid, which means the man, and at this time I was starting with graffiti and I didn't have like a nickname, so I'm like, yeah, I'm the man. So I call myself Al-Cid. So I used to write it E-L-S-C-I-D. And then when I start painting in Arabic, I changed the S-C-I-D as S-double-E-D, like the seed going back to his roots, So that's the thing. So it's a name that I've been using for 22 years now. But that's not my real name.
Is the capital L just a visual thing?
Yeah, just a visual thing. I think like capital E and small L will look so weird, like AI or EI.
Yeah.
I don't know, it doesn't look nice.
It's so funny. I feel like there's oftentimes that performers, like people who are actively performing all the time have to think of very practical things.
Yeah.
That sometimes I think is a bigger meaning, but it's just like, no, yeah, the E and the small I look stupid. And
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so Muhammad is next.
Hi, everyone. One of my questions was, Fawzi, coming from France, have you ever felt that using Arabic in an artistic expression could help break some cliches related to the perception of Arabic language in your home country, namely France? And also, what does Tebulbu refer to?
Okay, Tebulbu, it's easy. Tebulbu is it's a small, tiny village close to Gabes, where I'm originally from, and so nobody knows it. It's 10,000 people living there, but with social media, like I'm happy that you mentioned the name, so I did my job. So it's just like, yeah, I try to promote this little village where there is nothing actually except my family. And then using Arabic script, to change the perception, my art to change the perception of Arabic language in France, it's I don't know. I think maybe if there is some French compatriot in this call, some of them might be mad, but it's not the intention because I'm French, but I feel the place where I get the most negative reaction sometimes is, not negative reaction, where it's the most difficult, to paint, to do my art is French, friends. And sometimes it's sad actually that you come with the best intention and you show, I show what I've done before, and from South Korea to Brazil, and people are still, reluctant to it. They still think that because you paint in Arabic, you're addressing, a message to one community. When actually my work is not, I'm not targeting anybody. I'm not targeting one community. When I paint, I don't do Arabic calligraphy for Arab. It's not that. I just use Arabic calligraphy as my tool, to talk about bigger subject than just a community. So that's how I look at it. But I have like few projects in France that I want to do, and hopefully that I will do. But with the COVID, it's a bit difficult, and also in the political climate now in France, I think it's better like just to wait for a bit before I do anything there.
Great. Thanks so much. Isra, you're up next.
Hello. So
Hello.
would you mind to let us know more about what inspired the colors and the design for the Dubai Opera piece?
Okay. So actually the Dubai Opera piece was first an ephemeral sculpture that I did when I finished my art residency at Tashkil. So it's called Declaration. Actually, it was a declaration of love. It was like a kind of love declaration to calligraphy, and I used this quote from Nizar Qabbani that was saying to his wife. It was a poem that he wrote to his wife, saying that even despite your age, you will always be like young and beautiful, in my page, And this piece lasts for 5 weeks during the show, and then we destroyed it, and then we rebuilt it as a permanent piece. I was commissioned by Dubai Opera to create an art piece, and then I decided to give like a declaration, like a new life, and actually, to be honest with you, it was a declaration of love to my wife. So I'm a bit cheesy, but yeah, I say it publicly.
So nice. Okay, great. Thanks, Esra. Moz, M-O-E-Z.
Moaz.
Moaz.
You never know with Zoom names. You never know.
It's okay. Thanks for giving us your time, Fawzi, this evening. It's really good to hear from you again. My question is, a lot of your pieces, you talk about sort of bridging cultures and bridging different societies with your pieces. Mm-hmm. And my question is really with regards to when you're out doing your public projects and these pieces, and when you're there painting for a few days, have you ever had any negative experiences, particularly with the right-wing populism and conservatism in Europe? So your pieces in Paris or London, have you ever had any negative experiences?
Yeah, I got one, which is actually a funny one. It was 2012 in Paris, south of Paris. There was this little town that was not bought by Disneyland, in the late 80s. And there was the mayor of this village and the gallery in Paris. They said like they wanted to attract people to this town, saying like if when people are going to Disneyland, they can come and visit the village. So they invited artists to paint walls all around the village, in people's houses, and create this kind of outdoor museum. So I went and I painted a small wall on somebody's house who actually gave his authorization for me to paint, but he didn't give his authorization for me to paint in Arabic. So when he saw that I was painting in Arabic, he gets so mad and actually insulted my work and asked for the work to be erased. So we repainted the wall in white, and I was a bit mad. And a week later, actually, the city and the gallery, they called me and they said, look, we have a wall that belongs to the city. So if you would like to come and paint it, we would be happy. I'm like, okay, let me come back. So I came back, and actually the wall was right in front of this guy's house. So when he was coming out from his door, he would see the wall in front of him. So I was going, to be, I think, I wanted to be as stupid as him, so I was going to write ala wajhak, which means on your face. And then I tried to be smarter, and I wrote Open Your Heart, Aftah Qalbak. And that was 8 years ago. And I tried to, I went back to this village like in June, end of June this year. but the guy was not living there anymore. He was renting his house to somebody else. So I don't know if you have.
Was the Iftah al-Bak still there?
Yeah, the Iftah al-Bak was still there. There's somebody who tagged on it. He did a blue cross on it, but I mean, you could still see it.
How do you feel, as we go to the next question, how do you feel about when people tag your work or when it evolves and sort of decays?
It's okay. It's fine, you know, because I think, you know, by essence, you know, my work is ephemeral, you know, and so I don't get attached to it. You know what I mean? As soon as it's done, you know, I have the picture, and sometimes I don't have the picture. I have like some artwork that have been damaged, and then I have the picture. A wall that I did years ago in Tunisia. It was too dark to take a picture, so we came back the next day to take a picture of the wall in the daylight, and somebody put all his anger into it. He took, I think, a screwdriver and scratched the wall completely. So it was like a new, I mean, it was a new piece, but it was nice. You know, it was a collaboration with somebody that I don't know.
Version 2.
Yeah,
it was a feature.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have Maggie up next.
Hi, yeah, thank you. So I'm really interested in the piece that you painted in Algiers. So I read that it's lyrics from the song Blad al Khair by Dahman al-Harashi.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, why did you choose that song, if that's true? And how was the experience in Algeria?
Okay, you get the right information. Yeah, it's a song from Dahman al-Harashi. كيفاش ننسى بلاد الخير كيفاش ننسى قلبي تهنى. So I think this song from Dahman was deep, you know, because he was paying an homage to his country, but in the same time criticizing it, you know, the political part of it. And also Dahman al-Harashi was a singer that I used to listen when I was younger. And I think a lot of people know the song of Dahman al-Harashi, but don't know the name of the singer. So that's why I think it was relevant to the place and the time I was painting on it in Algiers. And honestly, it was one of the coolest experiences that I had. Really, it was just amazing. You know, painting in the middle of downtown Algiers was so cool. And I remember I was like actually on the 7th floor of the building, you know, painting. And then there was a little window, and there is a woman. She opened the window. She's like, oh, did you eat my son? I was like, no, I will eat after. You know, like I will go down and eat. And then she brought out from the window like a big platter, you know, like with couscous, you know, couscous with chicken, like ready. So she was waiting for me to reach the level of the building to bring out the plate of food. So that was so nice of her. But yeah, Algiers was an amazing experience.
So nice, great, thanks, Maggie. Faisal, you're up next.
I saw a few videos from the Zoo XXL that happened in Lyon.
Yeah.
And it was really nice breakdancing and freestyling from the big Red Bull people. And I just wanted to ask how this expo came to be. Did you talk to the art? Did you talk to Lilou and the big guys, or did you talk to Zoo, or how did it happen?
Actually, was Lilou is a friend of mine. Oh, and so he was supposed to be part on this. He was part of this project, the Zoo Art in Lyon. And so he told me, so like, look, Fawzi, I would love to do collab with you, you know, for this exhibition, you know. And we're like, okay, let's. So we created this kind of art installation, you know, where the breakdance floor is my calligraphy actually, and we had like a room full of screen, you know. So while they're dancing, you know, they have. So Lilou is doing this performance like every day, and then you have like a full screen, which is a mix actually of me painting and Lilou dancing, you know, because I feel me and Ali, we have a kind of common journey, you know, like the way I do his breakdancing thing and the way I went with my art. I think there's so much common path, and I think it was great. I'm glad we made that together.
No, it was really nice to see, and hope to see a lot of cross with other fields in the future.
I hope. Thank you, Faisal.
Thank you.
Adieu.
Thanks, Faisal. Dina is up next.
Hi, thank you for the very interesting conversation so far. Elsie, it gave a lot of context for those who can't read your work when you gave the meanings behind them, and I thought the proverbs were really beautiful. So I just wanted to just ask a simple question. Is there any proverb that you particularly love or were attached to when you were learning Arabic that you still haven't made a part of your art?
Oh wow. Actually, I'm thinking now. Like I need to think of this. Let me think of it because I cannot tell you like that. I think everything that I know, I wrote it already on wall. No, I'm joking. I don't know. Like honestly, I don't want to tell you something that is not true. But now I don't have anything coming to my mind right now.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Sorry.
We probably just get to see a teaser for the next time we see a piece of your art.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Dina. Jawahir?
Hi Fawzi, how are you? Good
I'm
to
good
see
and you?
you.
Hey, كيفك؟
منيحة تمام كله تمام الحمد لله. So فوزي بس كان بدي أسألك أكثر عن العمل اللي عملته في in Korea and how was the project and about the song. So what were you listening to when you did the Korean project and what was the Fairuz song you listened to when you did the Dubai Opera House project?
The opera was like حبيتك بسيف حبيتك. That was the one. But,
So between Nizar and Fairuz, you came up with that beautiful art. Okay.
And but not Korea. Actually, what is funny is like it was not a painting. So it was in opera. I spent few days there because I painted the wall before we did the install. But Korea, we spent 3 days, and there was not a moment where I'm by myself. When I paint, I put my headphone and I put my mask and I don't speak with anybody unless when I'm high, with a friend of mine who drive the lift. But on Korea, because it was an art installation, in metal, there was no song actually attached to it. But the poem that I put on the fence between North and South Korea is a poem that was written by a Korean poet, was not North Korean yet because he passed away before the separation. And so this poem became a folkloric song in South Korea. So the poem is a song when it was a poem at the beginning, but it's today a song that people in South Korea knows. So yeah.
But how did you feel about it being? I think it's a military zone, right? Where
Yes, the DMZ, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, to be honest with you, I was happy and proud, But for me, was I think having my work there showed me that the universality, the universal beauty of Arabic. For me, it was weird to have. I was always surprised to see like why South Korean would ask me, an artist, French-Tunisian, use Arabic script to install an art piece there. You know what I mean? Why it's not a South Korean artist, and that's how I realized, actually made me really realize that art, I mean, it's just a tool today. I use Arabic calligraphy as a tool. This is not actually the main purpose. It's a tool for me to go to places and yeah, that's how I look at it.
Beautiful, thank you.
Thanks so much, Jawahir. Alcide, I'm going to end with one final question before we log off real quick. Do you think of yourself as an ambassador? And if you do, who are you representing?
Wow, as an ambassador, I wish I had an embassy. No, I'm joking.
And a budget.
Yeah. No, I mean, like, it's, I don't know, because, if you're an ambassador, you limit yourself to something. You limit yourself to, I don't want to say a nationality or a cause. I think it's wider than this. You know what I mean? There is cause that I try to defend. There is people that want to highlight. There is a thing that I love, my culture. I love my Arabic culture. I love my French culture as well, and I think I'm a product of both. I don't want to be, I'm just the ambassador of Arabic culture, because this is not true. I'm not an ambassador of French culture only. I think I try to just express myself with one tool, which is Arabic calligraphy. And yeah, but I don't know, I don't think people try to give me this title, ambassador of Tunisia outside, But,
yeah, it doesn't have to be of a nation. It could be of.
Sometimes that's how people are, people wants to put you in a box, and I think being an ambassador, like you and the ambassador of something, I think I'm a free spirit, I just chill. I do what I want to do, when I can do it, That's how I look at it.
Well, you can. Well, thank you so much for joining. One last announcement. Please give us feedback on today's event. If you'd like to support our work, you can support our work and keep everything free and open to all at patreon.com/afikra. I put the links in the profile. Thank you so much for representing yourself, at least.
Thank you for the people who are here.
Yeah. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a safe night. Be well, and see you all soon.